Hello everyone, my name is Asyrafchazz and welcome back to yet another One Piece card game video, and in this video we're going to talk about all of the black cards coming to OP-03 Mighty Enemies. Now we've talked about red, green, blue and purple, so now we're left with black and yellow. Really excited to take a look at all the new CP9 cards from black. I think they are quite strong and Lucci is a really cool leader, so we're going to get into that and see what cards are good and what cards are not good. If you want to see the rest of the kind of color reviews, all of the links will be in the description below. I am going to be opening up 1 or 2 boxes of the next set OP-03 Mighty Enemies on the 11th of February, so look out for that. Gonna be really exciting to finally see what we can pull. Hopefully we get one of those new alternate art leaders, or maybe even one of those wanted cards so that we can see them in person and really form an opinion about them. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribing if you want to keep up to date with more One Piece card game content. Without further ado, let's take a look at all the black cards coming to OP-03 Mighty Enemies. Alright, so same thing as the other videos, I am using the roughly translated version of the website because the Asia website has not been updated yet. But if there are any major errors in translations, I am referring to the Discord translation as well. So shout out to Helmeppo, Helio, as usual, the GOAT. If you're not in the One Piece card game community Discord, link will be in the description. Come join us. And yeah, shout out to him. All credits go to the lovely gentleman. And let's talk about all the black cards, starting with the leader itself, Lucci. So if you want a more in-depth discussion about Lucci as a leader, I do have the OP-03 leader breakdown video in the description below, as well as a tier list that I did with Blackbeard TCG where we talked about the leaders. But just briefly mention 5000 power black leader. During your turn, once per turn, you can discard 2 cards from your hand. When an opponent's character is KO'd, you can make this leader into active again. So you can potentially attack twice with Lucci as long as you just KO one of your opponent's characters and discard 2 cards from your hand. I think it's pretty interesting. I think CP9 has its own unique mechanic of, you know, either trashing cards from your hand or putting the cards from your trash into the deck. So let's take a look. Oh, also there's the black and yellow Big Mom, but we'll save it for the yellow one. Alright, first up we got Isho Fujitora himself. This is your 8 cost, 9000 power, super rare in black. And his ability is Dawn 1 on your turn, -3 cost to all of your opponent's characters. So immediately it's a little bit strong right there. I think it's almost similar to the secret rare Kuzan from OP-02. And his second ability is on play. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in your hand, trash 2 cards from your opponent's hand. Oh my god, I love that ability. First of all, you know, just straight up hand destruction could be quite interesting. And the thing is like if you have enough to like kind of go for game, right? You can drop down Isho and then you can discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand, you know, limit their choices for counters as well as their future plays. I think this card is really good. Especially against decks like Whitebeard, because Whitebeard likes to, like, once their life is at 0, they have a grip full of cards in your hand and they'll just counter out the last few attacks. If you can get that number of cards in your hand down by 2, I think it's a win for you. And the stat line is it's pretty good as well. 8 cost and 9000 power. It's really quite strong. So I'm curious to see black decks using this card in the future. Definitely could be really useful, especially against Whitebeard. Next up, we got Virgo, 5 cost, 5000 power with counter 2000. So immediately you include it in decks if you need the 2000 counter in black. And his ability is Dawn 1. This character cannot be KO'd in battle. That overwhelming haki. Really, really strong card. I think you'll more often than not just use it as a 2000 counter, but if you want to, you can use it as a character that you want to attack into your opponent, because it's going to be difficult for this guy to be removed, except that if your opponent has like a jet pistol or all the plethora of other event cards that can destroy something that's 5000 power less, then sure, he's just going to go. But still, it's going to be difficult removing him without using event cards, so let's just move on. Next, we have Kaku, 5 cost, 6000 power with counter 1000. This is your other super rare in black. And his ability is on play. You can put 2 cards with the CP9 trait in your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. Then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So it's a straight up removal for anything that costs 3 or less, with the added, you know, caveat of putting 2 cards with 2 CP9 cards from your trash into the bottom of the deck. So I think that this card will see play for sure, because it does have counter 1000 as well, and it could be a good super rare for the CP9 decks, searchable with some of the cards that we're going to talk about later on. And at the same time, look at that giraffe shadow at the back of the card. That's pretty cool. I wish we had a giraffe version of Kaku, but maybe in the future. Next up, we got Khalifa. 4 cost, 4000 power, the special attribute with counter 2000. And her ability is on play, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards from your hand. After that, the cost of one of your opponent's characters is reduced by 2 during this turn. So this can help you get Kaku's ability to be online. At the same time, it's a counter 2000 for black or for CP9. So very useful for sure. Definitely can use Khalifa in the future. I think it's a good card. Next, we have Kumadori, or Bear Bread, the literal direct translation. 4 cost, 6000 power with the striker attribute with counter 1000. This is your 4 cost, 6000 power vanilla for black for CP9. So let's move on. Next, we have Corgi. 1 cost, 0 power with counter 1000. I like that his sub-trait is part of the world government. And his ability is on play. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Place up to 2 cards in the trash, and then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So this card kind of turns on the Kaku's ability, but at the same time, you're taking 5 cards and you're looking at 5 of them, and then you're putting 2 in the trash and the rest at the bottom. You don't even get to put some of them in your hand. You really need to use Kaku, or you need to really start putting cards like CP9 cards in your trash to turn on like Kaku's ability, and also the Rob Lucci super rare that we're going to talk about later on. Then yeah, this card might be necessary, but I don't see people playing it because you're naturally countering out of attacks with CP9 cards anyway. So there we go. Next up, we have Jerry. Okay, 2 cost, 4000 power with counter 1000. This is your 2 cost, 4000 power vanilla. So let's move on. He's from CP6, by the way. Next up, we got my boy Jabra. 5 cost, 7000 power with counter 1000. I'm kind of sad that he doesn't have an effect because I really like Jabra from like the CP9 people. Unfortunate, but he's your 5 cost, 7000 vanilla. I can still see this guy being played. 5 cost, 7000 vanillas do tend to get played. We've seen them in like Whitebeards. We've seen them in like Luffy decks. So black might play Jabra as well. Next up, we got Spandam. 1 cost, 2000 power with counter 1000, and his ability is on play. If your leader has a trait that includes CP, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 card with that trait, and other than Spandam, and then place it to your hand, and put the rest into the trash. So this card is what Corgi wants to be, right? It's technically a searcher, even though it's only 3 cards. But you are taking 1 card that you might need and then putting 2 cards that you can use for certain abilities in the trash. So Spandam, definitely a really good card. Of course, he's here. He's part of the CP9 as well. Too bad the sword didn't get its own card, right? The elephant sword. Spandam, cool. I just use the alternate art. Don't use this art because this art makes him look kind of cool and terrifying. The alternate art fits him better. Next up, we got Nero, 3 cost, 5000 power with counter 1000. This is your 3 cost, 5000 vanilla. So let's move on. Next up, we got Fukuro. It's a 3 cost, 3000 power with counter 1000. And his ability is this character cannot be KO'd by effects, and he has blocker. So I think this is a really good blocker for CP9. Once again, yeah, you cannot get rid of it. You cannot Vista this guy. You cannot Micro the Phoenix this guy. So you can cannot immediately just get rid of it with a card's effect. You gotta do it via battle or when he blocks. So, and it's a blocker, so it's really quite good. I think this card will be a staple for black decks. You can combine it with maybe like the Corazon blocker from OP-02, and you can pair it with Fukuro as well. Next up, we got brand new. This is your 2 cost, 3000 power, counter 1000, and his ability is on play. Look at the 3 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 navy type card other than brand new, and add it to your hand, then trash the remaining cards. So potentially, like the marine deck, if you're still using Smoker, or I don't think you're gonna use the Sakazuki because I think Smoker is just infinitely better. Yeah, you can use him in future marine decks. It's a searcher. Even though it's only 3 cards in the deck, Marine has like 0 searches. So this card is really quite good just to kind of boost the power of that deck. Yes, you are trashing the remaining cards, so you gotta like really pick carefully, but I think it's a really good card. Next up, we have Plano, 5 cost, 6000 power with the striker attribute with counter 1000. And his ability is Dawn 1, this character gains blocker. And on KO, play up to 1 character card with a cost of 4 or less with CP in its type from your trash and vest it. So this could be quite cool. I mean, you can play out Plano, you can put 1 Dawn on him, block, and then you can play out like a Khalifa or something. The thing is, like, we've seen this effect on like Crocodile, Dawn 1, this character gains blocker, and it's rarely being played nowadays. Well, it depends on how the people build the CP9 deck, right? But if it's the thing that's cool is like, let's say your opponent attacks into Plano, you block it, And then you can play out the Fukuro and then have another blocker for the next turn. Even though it's rested, you can do blocking duties the following turn. So maybe in that case, I think I'll rank this card a little bit higher. But other than that, I think it's just okay. Next up, we got Helmeppo. 1 cost, 0 power, counter 1000. And his ability is on play. Make up to one of your opponent's characters with no original effect, cost 0 during this turn. So if you want to really get rid of the vanillas, you can use Helmeppo. Though I do think it's not as good. It's such a specific target that I don't think it's that good, because there are other cards that do the same, not the same thing, but like essentially reducing cost of characters, but like cards with effect. So yeah, Helmeppo, just like in the early days in the anime, 0 out of 10. Alright, next up we got my main man Rob Lucci, super rare himself. Pastor Lucci, 6 cost, 7000 power with the striker attribute, and his ability is on play. You may return 2 cards with a type including CP from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. Then this character gains rush for the turn. This is your late game finisher for the CP9 deck. Yeah, you're gonna do a lot of searching, you're gonna do a lot of countering with CP9 cards. So I think that stipulation of just putting 2 to the bottom of the deck shouldn't be an issue. Rob Lucci is just absolutely boss. This card looks great. The alternate art looks great. This card is a 10 out of 10. Can't wait to see multiple copies of this being played against me when I'm playing against a Rob Lucci leader. Next up, we got Wanzer. This is your 2 cost, 4000 power, and his ability is on play. You may discard 1 card from your hand. If your leader has CP in its type, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. So another card that deals with 1 cost characters. Yeah, I think it's okay. Very specific, very, situational. Yes, you can get rid of the searchers, you can get rid of small blockers or anything in Zora's deck, but like there are other cards that do the same job but better. So I think it's just below average for me. Alright, now we're going into the black event cards, and some of them are really quite interesting. So starting with Ador, not Munetic Door, I think that's the literal translation, but it's Ador. Its main ability, it's a 4 cost event card. Its main ability is if your leader has CP in its types, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, play up to 1 character with a cost of 5 or less and CP in its traits, then put the rest in the trash. The triggered ability is play up to 1 black character card with a cost of 3 or less from your trash. This is an excellent card. This is a 10 out of 10 card. I think this is the card that makes the CP9 strategy work, because this is your searcher, but you can play it for free essentially, and then you are fueling your trash to use those cards for Rob Lucci, for Kaku in the future. I think this card is great. I think this card is going to be the meta-defining card for CP9. We'll definitely see a lot of copies of this, and this is how like CP9 wants to play, I believe. They just will kind of fuel the trash. They want to search for cards, and you can play something for free. And you imagine you play this, and then you play something like a Plano, and then you just keep on going, and then you can use the cards in your trash to fuel the abilities of the CP9. I think that's really quite cool. Next up, we have Soap Sheep. Not Stone Sheep, but Soap Sheep. 1 cost event card with ability is main, give up to 2 of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. Then its trigger ability is your opponent discards 1 card in your hand. I think this card is okay, just kind of average in power, because you have cards like Fujitora, you have cards like the 10 cost Kuzan that can just -5 on the board, even though it's like a little late game card, but you don't really need to -2 to 2 of your opponent's characters situationally with this card. I don't see a scenario where you definitely need this card in your deck. So yeah, just a below average card. Next up is Tempest Kick Sky Slicer. This is your 2 cost black event card, and this one is a bit of a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. Its main ability is KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0, or up to 1 of your opponent's stage cards with a cost of 3 or less. And its trigger ability is draw 2 cards. So this card is so good. Like, I'm not even kidding you. This card is so good, and I really think that this card is a 4-off in a deck, because if you're playing against an open meta game like a 400 or 500 player tournament, you're bound to see Galila Company, you're bound to see Kaidos, you're bound to see ace decks that have really powerful stage cards. This is just a straight removal for it. This is the only removal for stage card that we have so far, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna see more in the future, given how like the power level of stage cards have slowly gone up a little bit. Shout out to Thousand Sunny. But yeah, this card is just really good. Its trigger ability is great as well. I mean, most likely you just like, if you need to draw 2 cards, if you're playing against a deck that doesn't have stage cards, just draw the 2 cards if you trigger it from your life. If not, keep in your hand and then use it to get rid of the stage cards. I really like this card. This card is I would say not a metagame defining card, but a card necessary to counter a metagame. So I really like it. All right, next we got 6 King Pistol. This is a 0 cost counter event card. So 0 cost counter, you may trash 1 card from your hand. Up to one of your leader or character gains plus 3000 power during this battle. Its trigger ability is draw 1 card, then KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. So similar to like the other 0 cost event cards that we've seen so far. Some of it got played, like the blue one, Gomu Gomu no Rain in Ivankov decks, and then we talked about the one in purple. I believe it's Jet Gatling. So I don't know. I don't see this type of card being played, but some people may try to run it. The good thing is it is searchable, I think, from CP9. And yeah, you can catch some opponents off by surprise with this card, because if you see like, oh, you have your shields down, you probably have nothing, and then you get this card out and then you manage to counter the attack. So there we go. That's the only thing. I do think that it's not as powerful as some of the other event cards. We have to wait and see to see if CP9 plays this event card. All right, so next up is the namesake stage card of the CP9. It's none other than Enies Lobby. Also, coincidentally, my favorite arc of One Piece. 2 cost stage card, and its ability is activate main this stage, rest this stage. If your leader has a CP9 in its types, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. Trigger ability is to play this card. This card, I was high on Marineford last time, but there are just better cards that reduce costs easily. So whether or not you want to like use it alongside Enies Lobby, you can. I don't think it's that good. I think it's just an average stage card. You could probably give the slot to something else. But I think if you want to play like a proper CP9 or World Government deck, right, this could be interesting for sure. I think this card could be quite interesting. Alright, there you go. Every single black card from OP-03 Mighty Enemies. We only have one more color to go. It's none other than yellow. Really excited to talk about yellow. But if you have been watching all these videos, I know it's like 20 minutes each. I just really want to talk about all the cards so I can kind of remember them for myself. So if you watch it, thank you so much. If you don't, it's okay. I really appreciate it nonetheless. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. One more color to go, and that's yellow. We will be doing a box opening of OP-03 Mighty Enemies on the 11th of February, so look out for that. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.